Good evening from Hairenik Media and welcome to this week's newscast. In a significant diplomatic move, U.S. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz is calling for the finalization of a peace treaty between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Waltz, who recently spoke with Azerbaijan officials, emphasized the need to secure the release of Armenian prisoners held in Azerbaijan. Despite ongoing pressure from the U.S. and the European Union, Azerbaijan has yet to comply. Washington's renewed push for reconciliation comes as both sides continue negotiations, but the question remains, will Azerbaijan respond to these demands? Armenian Americans and allies from across the U.S. will be on Capitol Hill April 1st and 2nd to lobby Congress and attend the annual Armenian Genocide Remembrance on Capitol Hill. For more insight, let's welcome ANCA Eastern Region's Legislative Affairs and Community Relations Director, Nairi Diratsuyan. Nairi, welcome.
Padev, thank you for having me.
Nairi, who organizes the Advocacy Days, and what are the demands behind the Advocacy Days this year?
So the ANCA Eastern and Western Region teams, in collaboration with the ANCA National Team, work together to organize every Advocacy Day that take place in Washington, D.C. This year's iteration is taking place on April 1st and 2nd, and we're working to advocate for concrete action both on the administration's part and the international community's part to hold Azerbaijan accountable, reverse the 2023 Artsakh genocide, and continue to demand justice for the Armenian genocide.
Who can participate and how can they get involved for these Advocacy Days?
Yes, so anybody who's interested in advocacy and understanding the importance of Armenian American advocacy and really raising the alarm on different key priorities are welcome to attend. Whether you're a new activist or a veteran activist, the Advocacy Days are designed specifically to welcome new advocates into the fold. So we offer briefings, workshops, different mock meetings to really prepare advocates and provide a hands-on training opportunity before advocates ascend to Capitol Hill to participate in meetings with their congressional officials.
And where do these activists come from to DC for Advocacy Days?
Yes, we're motivated by the traction that grows each Advocacy Days and each iteration that we hold it, whether it's in the spring or the fall. And each time we see increased representation from different local ANC chapters and, of course, a youth component as well. This year, we're excited to welcome ANC activists from Missouri and South Carolina as they join their fellow activists from across the region, across 31 states and 36 local communities, from as far north as Maine and as far south as Florida.
That is fantastic. And we have noticed that last year there were a lot of youth at Capitol Hill. Do you expect active participation of the youth this year as well?
Yes, like you mentioned, youth participation is definitely a major highlight of our Advocacy Days, and we expect that trend to continue into this iteration as well. We believe it's because the youth really understand and recognize the importance of engaging with lawmakers and working to shape policy that affects the Armenian nation.
Tell us a bit about the Armenian National Committee in the Eastern region. How many chapters do you have, and how are they dispersed geographically?
So the Armenian National Committee of America Eastern Region chapters are dispersed through 31 states and 36 local committees, and they work on local, state, and federal levels to really advance the key priorities of the Armenian American community and ensure that our voices are heard at every level of government, whether that be securing proclamations locally, hosting genocide commemoration events locally, flag raisings, or meeting with their elected officials, both on the local, state, and federal level. The Advocacy Days will work to culminate in the genocide commemoration that will take place on Capitol Hill as well. And this is sort of where you see the triangulation of the relationship between local, regional, and national levels, where the genocide commemoration is being hosted on Capitol Hill, but constituents from across the region and across the nation are there in attendance, encouraging their respective elected officials to participate and offer remarks to reverse the Artsakh genocide and demand justice for the Armenian genocide.
ANCA Eastern Region's Legislative Affairs and Community Relations Director, Nairi Diratsuyan, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
The I Don't Trust Pashinyan campaign, #ChemVstahum, is gaining momentum in Armenia. Led by youth and Archbishop Bagrat Galstanian, the movement expresses deep dissatisfaction with the current government. Symbolically conducting a democratic republic vote, citizens are sending a clear message that the administration has failed to support Armenians, not just in Armenia, but also abroad, violating its constitutional obligations. Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan has announced Armenia's readiness to sign a finalized peace agreement with Azerbaijan. This confirmation, made via social media, comes amid reports of shifting Azerbaijani demands and speculation that Armenia may proceed unilaterally. Despite new preconditions introduced by Baku, Pashinyan indicates the government is prepared to sign, pushing forward with a deal critics argue concedes too much. The Prime Minister held a phone conversation with Russian President Vladimir Putin. The two discussed Armenia's peace agreement with Azerbaijan, which Pashinyan claims is now finalized, as well as broader regional and bilateral issues. Armenian Foreign Minister Ararat Mirzoyan has confirmed that the proposed peace deal with Azerbaijan does not require the return of individuals displaced before the collapse of the Soviet Union. He also denied Azerbaijan's claims about a so-called corridor through Armenia. However, critics have pointed out a major omission. The agreement does not specify Armenia's territorial size in square kilometers. This lack of clarity has raised concerns over potential future disputes. ARF member and Armenia Alliance MP Artur Khachatryan said that these authorities have agreed to everything that was demanded by Azerbaijan, adding that the authorities in Yerevan are blackmailing the people of the Republic of Armenia and all Armenians, saying that if we suddenly did not submit to Azerbaijan's demands, there would be war. ARF member and secretary of the Hayastan faction Artsakh Minasyan stated that peace and cooperation between Armenia and Azerbaijan will be established only when Azerbaijan receives a proportionate response, both through diplomacy and through the strengthening of Armenia's security system and the establishment of relations between Yerevan and foreign partners. Minasyan expressed his conviction that the Azerbaijani regime is making every effort to destroy Armenia, confirming that the Azerbaijani authorities cannot be trusted. Public frustration is deepening as many Armenians reflect on the betrayal of Gharabaghzis, who were once hailed as heroes. Accused of corruption and blamed for national problems, they were used as political pawns. First celebrated, then vilified. Critics argue the government exploited their struggle, only to abandon them while scapegoating Russia for Armenia's losses. Now let's go to Nare Navasartyan, our correspondent in Yerevan, to hear about the latest developments in the homeland. Welcome, Nare.
Hi, Annie.
Nare, there was a protest in support of the Armenian hostages in Azerbaijan, and then there's another upcoming rally in support of Artsakh Armenians. Tell us more.
March 20th, a group of demonstrators gathered outside the government building, calling for urgent action regarding Armenian captives still held in Baku. The protest, which took place during an active government session, was a direct message to Pashinyan's administration, reflecting growing dissatisfaction with what many see as a passive and ineffective approach to securing the release of prisoners. Family members of the detainees, activists, and concerned citizens voiced their frustration, accusing the government of failing to apply sufficient pressure to bring Armenian captives home. The demonstrators demanded transparency of negotiations and clear government action rather than vague assurances. Critics have pointed out that Pashinyan's regime has not made the release of Armenian captives a topic of negotiations with Baku, raising concerns that their fate is being sidelined as Yerevan keeps making concessions. Officials inside the building provided no response to the demonstrators, further fueling public outrage. Both this hostage crisis and issues of the displaced Artsakhis weigh heavily on the public conscience, and Pashinyan regime faces pressure to address these concerns. The Committee for the Defense of the Fundamental Rights of the People of Artsakh has announced a large-scale rally on March 29 at Freedom Square in Yerevan. The demonstration aims to bring attention to the plight of the forcibly displaced residents of Artsakh, many of whom continue to struggle with inadequate government support following the region's ethnic cleansing by Baku.
Nare, you were in Vanadzor covering the protest following the police assault on Tigran Ulubabyan. Let's view some of the footage from the protest first.
Greetings, Hairenik media. Citizens and activists have gathered today in front of the Investigative Committee of the Republic of Armenia demanding justice for Tigran Ulubabyan, an Artsakh participant in 3 wars, a brother and son of martyrs. Now living alone in Vanadzor, he was subjected to brutal beating and verbal abuse for 2 hours by the local police. They were trying to coerce a confession from him regarding the case of theft at his relative's apartment. As we can see, the demonstrators have closed the street, standing in solidarity with Tigran, demanding to know the names of the police officers that did this to him, as well as demanding wider protection of the rights of Artsakh Armenians. The lawyer Roman Yerevan that has organized this gathering has highlighted this case as a symptom of a wider state-backed persecution of Artsakh Armenians. This gathering is attended by Ruben Melikyan, human rights lawyer, the Hayastan Dashing MP Garnik Danielian, and many others.
My name is Mary Asatrian. I'm the assistant of the human rights defender of Artsakh, and I came today to the Investigative Committee of the Republic of Armenia in order to support Tigran Ulubabyan, a citizen of Artsakh who was arbitrarily beaten by the police, and the police is trying to charge him with fabricated charges. So we are here today to support. I'm here today as Mary and as the assistant of the human rights defender to show my support to Tigran, to let him know he's not alone in this, and also to thank him for the sacrifices he made for us, because he's the veteran of 3 wars of Artsakh. His father died in the first Artsakh war. His brother died defending our homeland too. So this kind of people shouldn't be beaten by the police on our homeland. So we are here today to show support to Tigran.
Nare, please tell us more.
The authorities have failed to identify the perpetrators, raising serious suspicions of a cover-up, even as the protests continue to this day. MPs Artur Khachaturian, Garnik Danielian, Christine Vartanyan, Aspram Kirperian of the Hayastan faction, Artsakh human rights defender Geram Stepanyan, and many others have joined this protest, demanding accountability and an independent investigation. The case has become a flashpoint for concerns over police brutality and government inaction.
Thank you, Nare. Now let's move to the Gyumri elections. What's the latest?
As Gyumri prepares for snap municipal elections this March 30th, tensions are mounting amid allegations of government pressure and political interference. The elections were initially triggered after the Pashinyan administration orchestrated a political shakeup, forcing the dissolution of the previous city council in what opposition figures have called a deliberate power grab. In the latest development, opposition mayor candidate Ruben Mkhitaryan has been summoned by the investigative committee over an incident from May 2024, raising suspicions that legal pressure is being used to sideline challengers to the ruling civil contract party. Mkhitaryan supporters view the timing of the summons as a politically motivating attempt to damage his campaign and reputation. Meanwhile, another opposition candidate, Bartan Lukasyan, has told reporters that civil contract representatives have been threatening Gyumri residents with potential repercussions if they refuse to vote for the government-backed candidate. Lukasyan has warned that these tactics are creating a climate of fear ahead of the elections. With opposition candidates facing political and legal pressure and voters reportedly subjected to intimidation, concerns are growing about the integrity of the electoral process in Armenia's second-largest city.
Thank you, Nare.
Thank you, Ani.
A new constitution, which the Armenian government wants to enact, must not hamper a resolution of the conflict with Azerbaijan, Justice Minister Sirpui Galyan announced. Azerbaijan has repeatedly made the signing of an Armenian-Azerbaijani peace treaty conditional on a change of Armenia's current constitution, which it says lays claim to Artsakh. It reaffirmed this precondition even after Yerevan and Baku finalized the text of the draft treaty last week. Earlier, Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan stated that the new constitution sought by him may have a regional significance as well. Armenian opposition leaders portrayed the statement as further proof that it is designed to satisfy Baku. The Swiss parliament passed a motion to create a peace forum for Nagorno-Karabakh, aiming to foster dialogue and facilitate the return of displaced Armenians. Meanwhile, Armenians in Sweden and Denmark held a protest outside the Danish parliament, urging the release of Armenian hostages held in Azerbaijan. Joined by Danish MP Sjurdur Skola and Director of Mission East International Humanitarian Organization Kim Hartzner, demonstrators also called for sanctions against Azerbaijani officials and an international investigation into torture cases. Independent Irish member of the European Parliament, Michael McNamara, has strongly denounced Azerbaijan's treatment of Armenian hostages, labeling the ongoing trials as Stalinist show trials. His condemnation comes amid growing international concerns about the legality and transparency of these proceedings. For the third time in a single day, Azerbaijan's Ministry of Defense has issued false claims of Armenian aggression. The latest accusation alleges that Armenian forces opened fire on Azerbaijani positions, a claim the Armenian Ministry of Defense has firmly denied. Experts warn that Azerbaijan's propaganda is setting the stage for future military aggression. Former Armenian human rights defender Arman Tatoyan has warned that Azerbaijan is escalating its demands, now claiming that Armenia owes more than $11 billion in damages. This contradicts the Armenian government's statements that both sides had agreed to drop their lawsuits. Tatoyan insists that Baku is actively pushing its legal case forward. The European Union monitoring mission has confirmed that there is no unusual military activity along the Armenia-Azerbaijan border. This comes after Azerbaijan's defense ministry alleged Armenian forces attacked Azerbaijani positions, claims that both Armenia and EU monitors have dismissed as disinformation. The European Union mission in Armenia has once again been accused by Baku of engaging in espionage activities, with Azerbaijani sources claiming that new recordings have emerged as evidence. According to Azerbaijani sources, images allegedly show the so-called EU observer mission moving towards Lachin and Zangilan. The report emphasizes that the Azerbaijani side is closely monitoring the mission's activities. It is worth noting that Baku has twice accused Yerevan of violating the ceasefire, while Yerevan has denied these allegations. Amid these accusations, the EU mission in Armenia announced on March 16 to 17 that it had deployed patrol teams to various sections of the Armenia-Azerbaijan border, stating that the border situation remains calm. Concerns are rising over cultural erasure in Artsakh. Reports confirm the demolition of a great patriotic war monument in Nerkin Hand, now replaced by a suspected Azerbaijani barracks. Satellite imagery also reveals widespread destruction of Armenian cemeteries in Avedaranot, Jarakatsner, Zardanashen, Matatashen, and Sarksashen. Experts say these actions are part of a broader pattern of erasing Armenian history in occupied territories. The news director of CNN Turk, invited to Armenia for a media tour, has sparked outrage by falsely labeling Yerevan's Persian Blue Mosque as historically Turkish. American journalist Lindsay Snell was quick to call out this distortion, highlighting yet another attempt at rewriting history. Following Azerbaijani pressure, the Turkish broadcaster altered its report, but the false claim remains online. The government of Armenia has decided to appoint a defense attaché to Armenia's permanent mission to the United Nations. The defense attaché will be responsible for coordinating and managing military and defense policy cooperation with the UN. A 3.7 magnitude earthquake struck 8 kilometers north of Spitak, Armenia, early on March 21st. Recorded at a depth of 10 kilometers, the tremor registered a 5 on the MSK scale at its epicenter. It was also felt in Lori, Shirak, and Aragazotan provinces. Fortunately, no injuries or damages have been reported. In a historic move, the Armenian government will temporarily open the Margara border crossing with Turkey from March 21 to 31. Closed since 1993, the route will facilitate humanitarian aid delivery to Syria. The decision follows discussions between Armenian and Syrian officials, with shipments routed through Turkish territory in response to ongoing humanitarian needs. Finally, a look back at a pivotal moment in Armenian history. On March 15, 1921, Soghomon Tehlirian executed Talat Pasha, the chief architect of the Armenian genocide in Berlin. This act was part of Operation Nemesis, a covert mission to bring justice to the perpetrators of the 1915 genocide. Tehlirian was arrested but later acquitted, marking a symbolic victory in the fight for Armenian justice. I'm Ani Zargarian, and thank you for joining us on this week's newscast. Don't forget to follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and X.